Hi, my name is Mark Ellison and I'm the unit leader for Space, Place and Crime. I'm recording this taster session to support you with your option choices for the next academic year. The unit is focused around two key questions. The first is, why do crimes cluster in particular places? And the second is, how can understanding this support policing and other services in the endeavour to reduce crime? To help answer those two questions, we will integrate environmental theories of crime with policing and administrative data sets and the practical application of crime mapping. These three dimensions enable us to explore the criminology of place. The unit has 5 learning outcomes. So at the end of this unit, students will be able to critically evaluate criminal theoretical approaches within the field of environmental criminology, critically evaluate data resources to understand crime and place, analyse data using a GIS, and as part of this, produce a series of hotspot maps, critically evaluate how hotspot mapping and hotspot mapping techniques are utilised by law enforcement agencies, and then finally, to synthesise these complex relationships between criminological theories, methodological approaches, and concepts. This will be the 3rd year that Space, Place and Crime has been on the Level 6 programme, but I've been teaching crime mapping for multiple years. The key message I want to give in this taster session is that this module is very applied. It's very practical, but also links theoretical and practical dimensions. So as part of this unit, you will use new software to produce maps, and you will also use Microsoft Excel to manage data sets. And this is part of the broader computational social sciences. One of the reasons why I'm delivering this taster session is that students have found this unit in previous years very different to other units, but they've also found it quite hard and also challenging. So the key message I want to get across is that it's very applied and that you'll be using new software, and just to take that in mind when you're making your choices. But what students have also stated is that they've found that this unit, although it's been very practical, it's developed key practical and transferable skills, which are very good in the workplace and will support your graduate outcomes. GIS is used by a lot of organisations, both across the public sector, across criminal justice, the private and voluntary and community sector. And a lot of our students in previous years have gone on to become analysts or researchers working within these sectors. So I just want to cover a little bit about teaching and learning. It's a 30 credit unit, which equates to 300 hours of learning. And the content will be key around theory, crime measurement and data, methods, applications, and then we'll use these 4 dimensions and look at these in relation to contemporary themes in environmental criminology. I'll deliver the content across 11 weeks in semester 1. These will be a series of lectures, labs and seminars. So the labs will be in a computer lab, actually using the QGIS software and Excel. So this will cover weeks 1 to 6. And then we'll move to a more seminar-based, group work, discussion-based approach in weeks 7 to 11. I'll also put on a series of drop-in sessions to support learning, but there's an expectation that there'll be a series of independent tasks completed by students each week. So key readings, watching videos, listening to podcasts, but the key thing, especially over the first 6-7 weeks, is the applied tasks about using QGIS and Microsoft Excel. This will be finally assessed through two means. The first will be a portfolio, and the second will be a written report. The key thing to remember here for students is that I'll be delivering about 44 hours of teaching, but the remainder of your time, which equates to about 17 additional hours per week, if you consider in the 15 weeks from the start of the module to the final assessment, will be self-directed learning. In terms of the assessment, the first will be a portfolio, and this will be done on a week-by-week basis in terms of data management and mapping tasks that will be completed, and these will be presented as a portfolio for submission at the end of week 7. The second is an assignment, which will be a 2,500 word report, and this will allow students to demonstrate the knowledge and critical awareness of criminological theory and the application of a hotspot mapping within the broader law enforcement context. So I released these questions in week 8, and the final deadline is in January 2025. I just want to do a couple of minutes of GIS now. So I just want a quick overview of how to use a GIS and the key components. So we will examine, as part of this module, crime events using the software. So we'll produce a series of maps. So we'll look at maps using points, focused around places. We'll also use area-based mapping, but we'll also introduce some statistical representation for the heat maps. So I'm just going to do a quick overview in QGIS now. So in QGIS, we have a series of layers effectively. So the first layer that I'm going to introduce you to is an area or polygon layer. And this is basically a ward map of Manchester Local Authority. So each of these individual areas represent a ward. We can project different layers. So I'm going to add in now points. So these are all the points of violent crime that have taken place across Manchester Local Authority in 2018. And we can represent these points in different ways. So one of the things we can do is we can actually zoom down into a particular neighbourhood. So in this case, I'm zooming down into Manchester City Centre, and I can add in an additional layer. So in this case, I'm adding an OpenStreetMap layer, so we can actually zoom down into a particular area. So in this case, I'm going to find Geoffrey Manton. So this is a Geoffrey Manton building here, and you can see each of these blue points represent a violent crime that's taken place in 2018. We can represent this in different ways. So the problem we've got with crimes is that they may occur on the same point. So I can introduce a method which is point cluster. And what this does is represent the number of crimes that have occurred on a particular location. So in this case here, I've got 15 crimes on this location. But as we zoom out of Manchester, you can see the points basically fall on top of one another, and it's difficult to interpret where the hotspots of crime are. So we can introduce a number of different methods. So the first method I'm going to introduce is a method which looks at a heat map. So again, this is based upon points. And what this has done is it's identified statistically where the highest concentration of violent crimes are. So these actually fall within Manchester City Centre, so Piccadilly and Deansgate wards, but there's also a hotspot in this ward as well. So that's one method that we can use. Another method we can use is effectively an aggregated method. So what we can do is count the number of crimes into each individual ward and present this as a thematic map. So this is rather than a point-based map, we're now looking at areas. So in this case, I'm going to highlight the violence layer, and this is the thematic map of violence across Greater Manchester. So again, you can see the darker areas represent the highest counts of crime. So again, in this case, the majority of crime, the highest concentrations of crime actually occur within parts of both Deansgate and Piccadilly wards. So what we're going to do in our labs is introduce you to QGIS and how to actually produce maps in this way. Okay. So just returning to my slide pack, I've introduced the QGIS example. I just want to talk briefly about graduate outcomes. So again, this will be provided in more detail at a later point, but we've aligned learning from this unit in relation to the broader MMU graduate outcomes. So this will cover areas such as digital, connected, interpersonal, autonomous, sustainable, and enterprising elements of graduate outcomes. Okay. So finally, I hope you found this taster session useful, and I look forward to teaching you in October if you choose this unit. If you've got any further questions, please contact me at m.ellison@mmu.ac.uk and I'll be able to address any questions. Thank you and best wishes.